So here we are inside of Maya for the very first time. And if you've never used Maya before, that's okay. And if you have, it's okay as well. I'm going to do a really quick overview of kind of the broad strokes of what we're looking at when we first open up Maya. So the first thing you'll see is a window that usually pops up about new features. And new features are kind of highlighted in these green brackets, or there's green text. So as you kind of look around as we explore, things that have these green brackets or have green text will basically show a new feature that has been added in this version, which can be helpful if you've used the old ones and you're not sure that a new tool exists. So you can always turn this off. There's a little checkbox. I usually eventually turn this off, but again, when you're new and you want to see something new, I would leave it on. For now, I'm just going to OK. And now what we have is kind of our general beginning layout inside of Maya. And yours should look something similar to this. Basically what we have is this big viewport. You might have 4, you might have 1, it's okay. This is where we're going to be doing kind of our bread and butter, all of our main work. So all of our 3D modeling. Along the side here, we have a few buttons that let us edit the way that our windows look. We have some ways of organizing our models. Above that, we have our default kind of manipulation tools. So moving, rotating, scaling, selecting, etc. Across the top, you have some of your beginning menus, kind of like Windows style, where we have file, edit, all those, etc. And you'll notice that we have a few other menus that are more unique to Maya, like mesh, edit mesh, mesh tools. One thing that's interesting is that each one of these is just a menu full of tools or options. So if you think about each one of these, they're kind of a list of specific tools that are used for a particular job. Now, what's interesting is that we currently, if you look right here, we have kind of this modifier. So right now we're in the modeling workflow. So if we come down to rigging, you're going to notice that the menus along the top have now changed. And that's because it's letting us see the menus that are important and only important for rigging. And if we ever want to go back to modeling, which again, we just click on this word here, and then we just left click again on modeling, you'll see the options up here have changed and the menus we have access to, which also mean the tools we have access to. So that's important. If you ever get lost or confused, always come back here to make sure you're in the right kind of modeling workspace so that we can get to the right tools that we need to use. Next to this area, we have our basic saving, loading, redo, undo. We have some selection methods. Next to that, we have some different ways of snapping. This is to be more precise when we get new modeling. And coming across, you'll notice that we have some different tabs here that look kind of like old-timey, kind of like clipboards, and this is all for rendering. So if we want to do like screenshots out of Maya, this is kind of where we would go. Below that, what you're going to notice is kind of these different highlighted words. Right now, polymodeling is highlighted. I can click on sculpting, rigging, animation, etc. And these are each a shelf is what it's referred to as. And what they are is that each one of these, so let's say polymodeling, is a collection of shortcuts. So if I were to click on these, like say the sphere, it would be a shortcut to one of the options up in the menus above. So right here I have a sphere, but hypothetically I could go to create, polygon primitive sphere, and I would have the same option. You can even see the icon is the same as it is here. So don't think of this area, the shelf, as being tools that are only unique to this spot. They're not. They're just a shortcut to getting to the tools in the deeper, more advanced menus. Coming off to the side here, what you're looking at is the channel box, modeling tools, and the attribute editor. The way I like to think about kind of the channel box and the attribute editor is when we want to make kind of fine adjustments or some high level kind of minute little detail changes, attribute editor and channel boxes are going to be able to do that. The modeling toolkit is again just some more tools that is a different way of working that is similar, but if you like to do it, we can get into that later, again in more detail. And finally, rounding it out, across the bottom here we have the timeline. And what this is mostly for animation, so we don't have to worry about it too much. Generally, it just shows you which frame you're on. Sometimes you might accidentally click in here and be on the wrong frame. Don't worry about it too much unless you're actually making an animation, which we won't be doing in this course. So you can always left click and drag it back to 1 if you're ever scared. So at this point, that should be a high level. We're basically going to be working in this viewport. We're going to be using some of these tools, which all have shortcut keys. We'll be changing some more views, and we'll be using a lot of the menus from the top and from the shelf. Again, we'll go into more detail, but that should be a high level overview, and I hope you guys are excited to continue.